Good morning, welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program, covering natural health. And this year, Wednesday, Rise and Shine, and give God the glory. And this morning, I'm looking at a topic: how to go from desolate to flourishing. How to go from desolate to flourishing is what we're looking at today. So, welcome again, and let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for your love towards us and the blessing of guiding us along and giving us ways to be able to find truth and be able to walk in the light of thy countenance. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. So again, I'm looking at this topic here, which is how to go from desolate to flourishing. So we want to be able to go from desolate to flourishing, and we'll start back from where I left off. We started back from our theme, which is how to live a flourishing life without desolation. And in our main text has been in Matthew 21, verse 6 through 15. Matthew 21, verse 6 through 15. Sorry there. So it says here, and the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them, and brought the ass and the colt, and put on them their clothes, and they set him thereon. And a great multitude spread their garments in the way. Others cut down branches from the trees and strewed them in the way. And the multitude that went before and that followed cried, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. And when he was come into Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, Who is this? And the multitude said, This is Jesus, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of money changers and the seat of them that sold doves. And the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, the children crying in the temple, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were sore displeased. So when we talk about going from desolate to flourishing, this is a key part of going from desolate to flourishing. Is in the environment that you're in. Environment means something, because when we talk about flourish, we normally talk about a plant, that a plant flourish. And the environment that the plant is put in is a big factor to do with flourishing. You know, what the plant gets as nutrients, the sunlight, the air, that type of environment, the treatment is going to be a very key factor to flourishing. And so when we look at this in your personal life, we have to take note for what's going on here. So the environment that Christ created with the teaching, the healing, just the happy, good times environment, righteousness, morality, will cause growth. When you're in an environment where it's dark, where everything is filthy, there's a lot of craziness going on, crazy talk, a lot of hate, all that type of stuff, you really don't flourish. You don't flourish mentally, physically, socially. Stress is a thing that will destroy you. Almost all autoimmune disease, as you know, stress becomes a major factor. When a person is in a stressful environment, male, female, rich, poor, young, old, it brings you down. And so you want to be amongst not only people, but you want to be in an environment where you're encouraged to grow. And growth is a reality. Growth is attainable. Growth is what you see. So notice here, this is very important, because when you see this, there's happy times. They're celebrating Christ. They're celebrating what Christ is doing for the people. Those who are in a tough situation, normally children, the blind, those who are sick, in other words. This type of environment that Christ created was great for them. They could prosper, they could flourish, they could do well. But when you go to the environment that they were sore displeased. So I'll read it again for you. And as I glitch out there, I read it again for you. So, and when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying in the temple, and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were sore displeased. So it makes them sad. And this should not be, right? It makes them sad that Christ was doing all of this. And this can be a very bad environment to be in because remember now, this environment that Christ created, you'd want to be there. And you have to look at your life like that. And so, where do you put yourself? What type of environment do you find yourself? Because if you're created an environment for yourself or you find yourself in an environment, you have to look at it and say, is this environment conducive for my growth? Is in this environment conducive for me to flourish? Is the environment that I'm in conducive for me to be able to do wonderful and have a wonderful experience? And you can see that by this behavior, this note that is noted here in Matthew, by Matthew for the Pharisees, you can imagine that they would never have created an environment like that. And I've been around scribes and Pharisees who they never you're not gonna have a good environment. And notice again, I'll make sure you know the Sadducees, which are the liberals, they're not even talked about there. They're just ignored. So we're talking about an environment that's supposed to, you would think if somebody's into the Bible, they're supposed to create an environment where people can flourish. But normally you go amongst them, they dry up. That's how I look at them. They're just dry. The people dry, they look empty, and they're dry because the environment is not an environment. And so I'm going to go through now. I'm going to explain some things and point out some things why this is. So remember now, everybody's happy. It's great. Church is really doing good. And the scribes and Pharisees, which I've seen for myself, they are mad. They're displeased with this. And I've seen this. Very, very strange. Um, so Daniel chapter 9, verse 24 through 27. So when we talk about flourishing, as I say, it's always important to understand the environment is important. What you do, what you put in. You know, they say garbage in, garbage out. If you have a life that is empty, desolate, then obviously you have to look at what is going in, what's the environment you're in. Because what you put in inside your mouth, inside your eyes, through your eyes, through your ears, that will curate the end result of what's going on in your life. Notice in Daniel chapter 9, verse 24 and 20, through 27, which has been another main text I've been using here. So just build on what we've been doing. So it says, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon the holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sin, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks, score and two. And the street shall be rebuilt, and the wall even in troublous time. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, obviously because he dies for us. And the people of the prince shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of war, the war desolations are determined. So I'll read it again. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. So normally when you have desolate people like these Pharisees and scribes that we just read about, the end result of their leadership is always end in physical desolation, physical war, because what follows them is war, famine, and pestilence. You can see that through the Dark Ages. They created their own Pharisees and scribes, and the end of the result of that was constant war, famine, and pestilence for 1,260 days or years. When Christ ministered for 3.5 years, which is equivalent to 1,260 days, it was flourishing. It was no war, famine, pestilence. The Pharisees were at war with him, but he was blessing the people and taking care of the people. So the environment we create around us is important. So notice now in verse 27, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause sacrifice and oblation to cease, because Christ died within 3.5 years of ministry. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation. and that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. So we see here that what is determined will be poured out upon the desolate. When a person lives a desolate life, whatever is determined will happen. It might not happen today, but it will happen in the sweet by and by. As times roll on, it will happen. So when we talk about live going from desolation to flourishing, it is important for us to make that switch to start to curate a life that will result as time goes on in a flourishing life. Because when we going in a desolate way and doing things that will is not conducive to a rich life, a prosperous life, a blessed life, the ultimate results will come our way. It just takes time. You know, if you go right now and you go and see people living on the side of the street, there was a process that led them to that point. And if you see churches emptying out and there's skeletons of churches and so forth, then you say, well, what led to this? There's a process. Where you see wars, famine, pestilence, never be like the general society that assume that the war started when it started. Because normally this says war is um, when diplomacy fail. War is when all other means fail. Then it ended war. You know, normally that's why you have ambassadors and diplomats and politicians, because they're supposed to be able to work it out verbally and, you know, financially and socially. And then now you avoid war because you come to a deal, you come to agreement. You know, I'm doing business with you, you're doing business with me, and we work it out. But when somebody want to get too much or want to rob somebody, then you end up in war. You know, a divorce is the same thing. Uh, Sickness is the same thing. There's something that precipitated that came before, and the end result was desolation. But there's a desolate situation that continue. It's just like with your immune system. If you do not strengthen your body, exercise, you know, take supplements, herbs, blah blah blah, when you get exposed to something, it will pour out on you and it will fall apart. You've seen people on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 medication. That person is not taking care of themselves. That's just a fact. They're just desolate. And so again, what is determined shall be poured out upon the desolate, and it's going to pour on them. All right, so I dealt with my main two texts now. So let's go now to the meat of the matter for today. So my topic again is how to go from desolation to flourishing. So notice here, I read this yesterday and I'm reading it again for you. The word desolate, which is deserted of people, a state of bleak and dismal emptiness, right? So this can be a person that feeling inside the life they live, an environment can be like that. So again, desolate mean depressing, empty, bare, inconsolable, barren, laid waste, and to feel deserted, lonely, and hopeless. So a person who is desolate can be going through all of this experience. An environment that is desolate is not conducive for flourishing. But the word flourishing now means of a person, animal, or other living organism that grows and develop into a healthy and vigorous, it grows and develop in a healthy and vigorous way, especially as the result of particular favorable environment. So especially in particular for when they're in a favorable environment. So desolate is an unfavorable environment, but flourish is a favorable environment. So in order for one to grow, as I say, whether it be mentally, physically, spiritually, socially, anyway, one has to have a favorable environment to grow. It will be similar to like making money. You want to be in an environment that your chances of financially prospering is most favorable. Like if you're trying to make money, unless you have, even if you have, I don't know if you're going to have internet connection, but it's going to be harder for you to do financially well if you're like in a boonies. You know, you're far away from all life, unless something you're doing there is what is conducive to make money in that business you're doing. But for the most part, you find there's environment where there's a city or a town and the town is just not conducive for you to make money. It's falling apart, and it's just not conducive unless you figure out a business that model that works in that type of environment. And normally that type of environment would be probably somebody selling drugs or stuff like that. So they prey on the people who are already desolate. And still, if you're selling drugs, you want to go to somewhere that they have a lot of population and people have a lot of money, especially probably if you're selling cocaine or stuff like that. That's what they say, right? So environments that are flourishing are very important for us to put ourselves. We're told that we're supposed to put ourselves or put people in an environment that is most conducive for their growth and for their prosperity. And you have to do this for yourself. So you have to look at every plate of food you eat, every drink you drink. Is this drink putting nutrient in me? Is this food putting nutrient in me that is going to cause me to flourish physically, mentally? It's the same thing when you look at your food. Is your food has color in it or is it just brown? So when you do in life, you want to be able to do life like that. You want to make sure what are you doing, how you doing it, that you do it, and it looks like, at least on the surface, it looks like it is conducive for growth. The place that you're at, the movies you watch, if you do watch movies, because sometimes there's things that people watch in movies that's just dark and destruction and death and killing and war, famine, pestilence. And if you're feeding yourself that type of movie or media, because it could be media, it could just be what you're watching, it's a reality TV, whatever. And it's just war, famine, pestilence. And if you listen to stuff that is war, famine, pestilence, and if you eat and your plate is look like war, famine, pestilence, that's what you're preparing for. You're just gonna kill your body, kill your organs, and you're just smoking some weed and taking all kind of drugs and putting alcohol in your body and all this type of stuff. It is not gonna be conducive for growth, and your mental state is gonna be horrible. Your physical is gonna be horrible. Socially, gonna be horrible. So you have to look at life like that. What are you doing that's going to cause you to flourish and to grow and to develop? There's people that you look at, and as I say, you show me a person on the side of the street, you show me a person that's always angry, that show me a person on multiple medication, show me a person that is have all kind of depression, feel empty. And in multiple areas of their life, it is a guarantee that what they're doing is what they're doing, is what they're partaking of, what they watch, what they listen to, is bringing them down. The food, as I say, you should not be drinking things that is purple and neon green and neon blue and stuff like that. That's industrial chemical. But as people put that stuff in their body and expect to flourish, you will never flourish that way. You are going to go into life of depression. So again, I read it again. Desolation is deserted, a state of bleak and dismal emptiness. There's many people in our society that's their life. And why? Because they constant feed themselves on things that is dark. Listen, like for me, it's not just I have the lights on me as I'm recording this for video, but I like things bright and clean because it just feels better. And if I'm feeling bad, at least it makes me feel better. I like to see flowers. I like to see green. I like to see red, yellow, black, white, the whole spectrum. Black is not a spectrum. Um, I don't, you have to stay on the lighter side of life. There's sometimes, unless there's a tragedy, you're supposed to be able to find things in your life to make you happy about. You can't partake of depressing stuff all the time. And there's some people that like that. And so when they do that type of stuff, then life is just like that. If you deal with things that are empty all the time, are vapid, and it's just la la la, no facts, no figures, no data, your life is gonna be like that. You can't partake of what is always bare. You can't always look at things that make you feel like you're inconsolable. You can't be in an environment that is always barren. Things don't grow. As I said, there's environments people in, especially in religion, that is barren. It's laid waste. I would not live in certain towns. If my town start going down, I just take my losses and I move out. I'll lose financially before I lose mentally and socially. I couldn't live in certain towns where it just looked like they're not going nowhere. I'll just move out. You just escape from those places. You can't be in an environment that's deserted. Loneliness and hopelessness is not what you want to be around. So when you flourish again, whether we're talking about the organism, you need to be able to put yourself. Doesn't mean that these are a guarantee in the sense that you're going to have this amount of experience or that. You're just increasing your chances that you will do well for yourself. So you put yourself in an environment and around people and do things to make you grow. In other words, by beholding, we become change. So if you keep doing the same thing, you will get the right result if it's the right thing. It's perfect practice that makes perfect. If you're practicing bad things, you're going to get bad result. Doing the same thing, expecting a different result is mental illness. If you're doing the same wrong thing and still getting bad result. So as again, when we talk about every day, what is the supplement you're taking? What is the herbs you're taking? What are you listening to? What books are you reading? What entertainment are you partaking of? Whatever people you have around you, have people around you that's always thought depressing. Over the years, I've just learned, I try to avoid as much as I can people that, when they talk, you feel like you just feel sad. I don't like that, but I have to deal with things that are sad. But I can't deal with that all day long. I switch. And so even with Monday to Tuesday, if you listen to Monday, Tuesday, well, I had to make the switch by today because I just my mindset. I have to move to positive. But I still deal with the negative because I have to deal with reality. So especially the result of what is particularly favorable to one's a favorable environment. So you curate your own environment. That's what I do. That's why I do like church, my own church. I can't go to corporate church because they're doldrums, and I can't deal with the praise and worship churches because they're in la la land. I told you before when I came to America and I realized that the black community was under siege and destruction by the government. Crack was running, all that was running. But when I went to the black church, they were praising the Lord. And it was very confusing because I was like, they're not prospering and their kids are being bludgeoned by the government. But they seem to not concern. So I realized is that the environment that they're creating is an environment that's escapism. They're escaping reality. They're not dealing with reality and dealing that you're under siege. And you need to figure out how to protect yourself and put a moat around you. But a moat is not a sing along because all the kids got wiped out and those churches are bereaved of their young people. So I couldn't accept that. I just can't. I couldn't. I'd have to fight back. And because you realize your own government is against you, try to take you out because you're of your skin color and stuff like that. In Psalms 92, verse 1 through the end, Psalms 92 to the end, notice here, it is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord and to sing praises unto thy name, O Most High, to show forth thy loving kindness in the morning and thy faithfulness every night, upon an instrument of 10 strings, and upon the psaltery, upon the harp with a solemn sound. For thou, Lord, hast made me glad through thy works. I will triumph in the works of thy hand. O Lord, how great are thy works, and thy thoughts are very deep. A brutish man knoweth not, neither doth a fool understand this. So this is true. When you understand, there's a total, to me, massive difference between thinking that everything that happens in my life and my whole life is a chance by accident. Total different thought to say I'm from the creator's hand than to say I'm from a primordial soup, which, what the evolutionists say they're from a swamp. So what a total different thought. I'm coming from the creator's hand. The evolutionists say, no, 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 Lloyd, you're from a primordial soup. You came out of the swamp. You used to be a swamp monster that came up in Africa and then you end up in Europe. That to me is not a nice thought. It might sound great for those listening to it. It compliments them. They're the end product of evolution. But for me, that sounds terrible. Every day I do certain things. I'm always fascinated by the fingernails, right? That's one of my fascination. Because when you're doing certain things, like if you need to deal with a wire, you need to like just grab something. Your fingers can't do it per se. You need nails. It's just a genius placement. And somebody say, "Why are you saying that?" Because it's genius. There's no way that comes by chance. It's by design. And so even if you say, I never seen God, yeah, welcome to the club. Never seen him either. But I see the work of his hands. I see that there's somebody designed us. Because when you go through life, the fingers, the function of the fingers, man, what a genius concept. You put nails on the finger, the tip of the finger, and the top of it, not the inside. You can touch, but you never feel it until you need to pick at something or grab something very small. And you could grab something so small with just like the thumb or whatever, the fingernails itself is so brilliant. And tell me that if I'm working with something, electrical wire, something that I have to grab and I can't pick it up, or something that's like a paper thin, like if I'm trying to get some paper, or, like for instance, I have my wallet. And in order for me to get a credit card, sometimes I can't pull it because I have multiple credit card in the same slot. But what I do, I take my fingernail and just push against the numbers and slip it out. That's what I do it. That's an example. And in my mind all the time, I'm thinking, man, this is genius design. So anyhow, I just add my value to the text. The text here, I should praise the Lord for his works. So I thank the Lord. I believe God created me and he gave me fingernails. And just think about it as you go through your day. How often you're doing something that without that fingernail, you couldn't execute it, or it'd be so difficult just to use skin. That's my 5 cents on fingernails. So notice here, oh, verse 5 again. Oh Lord, how great are thy works, and thy thoughts are very deep. A brutish man know it not, neither doth a fool understand this. When the wicked spring up as the grass, and when all the workers of iniquity do flourish, it is that they shall be destroyed forever. No, you can praise the Lord about things that is great. Yeah, I remember when I was younger and I saw so we're going back 25 years when they started all this big talk about access of evil and stuff like that. And I'm watching these people and thinking they're fulfilling prophecy. As you know, my understanding of Daniel, I believe they were fulfilling prophecy. And I'm watching them with all the pride. And then I was worshiping. It just happened that about 2 decades ago, I was worshiping at a church where they were celebrating all these wars they were doing. And I was shocked because I was like, these are Christian folks. And they're celebrating war, famine, and pestilence. And then I'm looking at the Bible, and the Bible is telling me that the war that they were fighting is going to fail. That's what I believed. And I believed that they were cretins for it. They were just terrible human beings. Anyhow, so I remember this. And when you see the workers of iniquity, they're flourishing and the greatest and all, they're dead. People have been talking about they should be tried for war crimes. And, but they go all this country, they just overrunning Iraq, overrunning this. And now what happened? They had to pull out in shame and stuff like that. And you see that, you say, man, how since you've been young, now you're old, probably, if you listen to me. And you've seen how many people that they used to be flourishing with criminality. And when you see them, it's just they're either dead or they're on the street begging bread. And, and you say, the Bible is just so true. And this life here will whip you. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. But he says, this is only that they shall be destroyed forever. But thou, Lord, art most high for everyone, forevermore, sorry. For lo, thine enemies, O Lord, thine enemies, O Lord, for lo, thine enemies shall perish, all the workers of iniquity shall be scattered. But my horn thou shalt exalt like the horn of a unicorn. I shall be anointed with fresh oil. My eyes also shall see my desires on my enemies, and mine ears shall hear my desires of the wicked that rise up against me. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. So obviously, as you know the story, you're familiar with this. A tree to grow, it needs nutrients, lots of nutrients, and it needs sun. So sun above, nutrients below. And it's the same thing for you. You need light, you need righteousness, you need truth. You need what's going to make you flourish. The environment has to be conducive. You would not say the cedar of Lebanon would flourish in the desert, so to speak, because what's happening, it needs, if it's in the desert, it needs to be in an oasis, somewhere that it can get water, it can get nutrients, and it can get sun. So if you're in a desert, you can get sun, but not enough water, because as the sun is making photosynthesis happen, also it's drying out the tree. It's pulling out all kind of water out of it. So it needs somewhere to get that water. And it's the same thing with you and I. In order for you and I to be the righteous that flourish, we have to be doing righteousness. We have to be doing the right thing in order for you to flourish. You want to make a certain amount of money, well, you have to put in your hours, and you have to put in also, you have to put in your labor. And you have to have a skill to be able to exercise, else you will not flourish. So this is the result of the righteous. So the righteous shall flourish like the palm tree, because the palm tree normally is placed in an environment, or is in an environment that will make it flourish. And the righteous also shall be like the cedar of Lebanon. So this is how you want to be. The environment has to be conducive. You have to be able to have the water and stuff like that. So notice here, those that be planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. So this is where righteousness comes in. And one thing I can say for sure is that that's a very important thing over the years, what I've observed. And it is the righteous does flourish. Notice it didn't say the those that are professing righteousness. It said those are righteous. Righteous mean right doing. Because in order for you to get results, you have to do. And this is important for the next text I'm going to go to, but I'll go to it in a second. You'll see in a second. So they shall bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be fat and flourishing. So I'm trying to work on the fat part, try to get some fatness. But they shall bring forth fruit in old age. Now, one thing I've observed, and this is a statement, I remember Ellen Joy said this very powerful statement. She says that your older years could be and can be your better years, which is so important. Because when you think about flourishing, flourishing means to me not short term, long term. And it is one thing to be getting older and watching that concept. Because what I realize is what you put in earlier when you're younger, it pays dividend when you get older, and pay massive dividend. And what life you curate, you build for yourself, the people you're around, the environment they curate for yourself. You curate that environment, not so much just when you're younger, because there's things I did when I was younger that it was beneficial, but the results would have not been as powerful as if I do it now. Because if you have a regular thing where you exercise, you take herbs, you supplement, you juice, you do that type of stuff, it's valuable when you're 30, 25, 35, whatever. But as you get older, it becomes very valuable. And your taste bud, as your taste bud, sometimes I take herbs. I never take the herbs I take in the morning. Always make me want to feel like I want to gag. I just never, it never sit well with me. But I'm fascinated that I'm at the point where as I say, I never take herbs. Rarely would I take a herb in a capsule, because I've just gotten used to it's going to taste bad, and I just take it, right? But for me, that's a massive thing, because for me, I normally when I was young, I would eat a lot of junk food and eat food that is highly processed and just dead food, just garbage, and just so to get to this point where that switch happened, you're doing the thing that's going to give you results, because it's results based, and there's no error in the result. It's fascinating for me, just even me observing the change. And so when you want to get to a point, you can get to a point. It might take a while, because it didn't take me. It took me a while. You're studying certain things, you're reading about certain things that you tried, and then you go through the beat down, so to speak, because it's gonna be hard to switch over, to make that switch where you're going from pizza, burgers, hot dog, to not even thinking about those things. Those things don't even come in my mind per se, in the sense of sometimes not even the natural one. So to go to that switch is very difficult, and it takes a time, but the results are fascinating for me, just observing the results. So I read it again, what am I yammering on about? Verse 14 again. They shall bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be fat and flourishing. Your old age can be better, because you've gone through the youthful lust. You've gone through, you settle down. And when you get settled, it's a powerful thing, because the longer you get settled into a flourishing life, is the easier it becomes, because it becomes more like a second nature. It's when you think about like a juice fast, a raw cleanse, these type of things. And you've been there, done that, been there, done that. You do it over and over. There's a point where it just, you just know, oh, probably have to do one, have to do a cleanse, so forth. It's easier. But when you've done differently all your life when you're young, boy, at the old age, you really don't flourish. The body just falls apart. And that's fascinating. And socially, it's good to build up some people around you that create an environment where you can be happier. You can deal with people who are righteous and stuff like that. It's just a better environment to be than to be around cretins all the time. So you have to curate that life for yourself. You create the environment that makes it conducive that as you get older, you have some people around you. Verse 15 says to show that the Lord is upright. He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him. We believe that. So notice here, we go back now to Matthew 23, verse 1, 2, and 3. We didn't read this so far this week, but I want to read this just to show you this concept of the environment. So Matthew 23, verse 1, 2, and 3 says, Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. Huh. Now this is key when we understand these religious elites. So the scribes normally, I equate them. I don't know how you equate it. I equate the scribes to theologians and the Pharisees to religious conservative leaders. So in every aspect, you do what they say, because you can go to a theologian and you can say, hey, listen, tell me what this text says, what it means. Give me the Greek, Hebrew, the history of the text, what you understand from the text, yada, yada, yada. Excellent, excellent. And they break it down for you that you'll be like, man, that's impressive. Okay, what does that mean for you practically? They they don't know. They don't think about it. It's just a lot of words. It's word salad for them. So over the years, I've found that, and this is the thing that they do, the theologians and the religious leaders, they push, they don't bring the Bible close, personal. They don't make the word of God come close to you. They push it far away. It happened at 1520. And they can tell you the date, the time when it happened. And then that's it, and they go quiet. It's like amazing. So what does that mean for today? No, it don't mean anything. Really? No, no, no. It happened at 500 years ago, 700 years ago, 2,000 years ago. In that time, and that's what it means for these people. And they would go in and find what the archaeologists found, the historian found, and they give you all of it. And then you say, man, there's some powerful lessons there for my life. And they'll be like, for life? No, not for life. This is not for life. This is just for theology. Theologian is just, so this is important for you to understand. Very important for you to create an environment for you. You have to know that, so when you deal with people in that religious environment, they push the Bible. In the church, recently they did a study on Psalms. And if you look at how the theologian handled that from a theological research point of view, brilliant research. I respect the research that she did. But when it comes on to the value of it for my personal life, oh no, that it's far away. It's what the psalmist was talking about, and it's way down there. But for me personally, it brilliant research. And so for me, I value research like that, to tell you the truth. And I value what Christ says here. I believe it, I preach it, I live it. You don't do what they do what they say. Take what they say and bring it home. They don't bring it home. They don't bring it down to Main Street and to Broadway. They keep it out in the piers and way off into the airport. It's far away from you. So you really don't get a concept of what does that mean for me. Like the Bible is personal. What God says it means for me, what I should do, how I should live my life, because I want to prosper, I want to flourish. They just make it as it's just a sport, just a theological sport to understand history and what the text says and what it means. But what does it mean for me personally? I don't mean. So if you listen to me, you will say, okay, what is the difference? Because I make it real. It's I'm trying to, at least. That's my aim. I'll read it again for you, and hopefully you got what I said. I want to say I could do, I'm probably gonna do a whole week on this. So because I believe this is so important, you will not flourish in this life, especially if you're a religious person, and you don't understand that the text that is written 3,000 years ago is for you today. The lessons in these writings, they're valuable because it's for you today. It is not something that happened 2,000 years ago per se. It's something that happened for you right now as you read the Bible. So here's a powerful one. Then spake Jesus 2,000 plus years ago, 2,000 years ago, to, yeah, I would say 2,000 plus years ago, to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So he's saying, listen, yeah, they're the leader of the true church. They're running it. There's no doubt. But here's the problem. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observes. If they say to you, the Sabbath is a right day, you should eat your Wheaties, as they say, go ahead, do it. He says, that observe and do. Because what is the problem with them? And if you've ever been in a church and understand what I'm saying, the number one thing about them is that they're anti-works. You didn't get that. You show me a theologian or a church leader, and they're aggressive against doing. They even have whole doctrines that they call grace-orientated doctrine and, anti-works, and they're very aggressive against works. Somebody said, Lloyd, what you're preaching there is just a coincidence. It's a big coincidence if you're not spiritual or you don't believe that there's a spiritual realm. This is demonic. This is what they do. They are very aggressive. I don't think I've ever met a theologian that is not against, they're always against works. Oh, you can't do. Notice the laziest place in the country, place in the country that will never rise, and they're most embedded with this grace-oriented thing. Grace-orientated ministry and teaching is the place what I call Bible Belt, and it is not a big work output because the preacher is constantly lying to them, telling them you have to do anything, and everything is finished at the cross. All curses are finished at the cross. So the big question is, the Bible tells me that the moment man sinned, by the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. So if I go to you and I say to you, by the sweat of your brow you eat bread, let me ask you, are you going to eat by grace or by works? When Christ died, did he eliminate that clause? Did he crucify it on the cross? And almost all these southern theologians would tell you, yes. So okay, so in the Dark Ages and up until the end of slavery, how did you eat? It was the sweat of somebody's brow. You were robbing somebody else's labor. How do we eat today? By the sweat of our brow. Now, is work less servile and less, rough? I would say yes, because we have machinery. And that's something I'm going to deal with next week and stuff like that. What changed after 1844? But other than that, we still have to work. We still have to put in our sweat. Listen, there's nothing you do that you're not going to sweat. Everything is stressful. Everything that we do for living. It's just what it is. It is difficult. And so even here, you see me here talking. This doesn't come by. This come by hard labor. It's a lot of stress. And you can hear me. You can hear the background, what I've been through to get to that point where I can say this very clearly. Look at the Pharisees. Look at the Sadducees, the scribes. They're anti-works. They're aggressive against works. And so it was in Christ's day. And probably this is the first time you've ever heard it. So you heard it. Came through hard labor. So notice here, but do not after their works. For they say and do not. If you want to flourish, you want to be able to be the person that listen and do. Watch them and they're lazy. I remember a pastor told me this, somebody that I was close to. And he said, the ministry is for lazy people. So he told me. And so if you see churches closing, they're not closing because the people per se, they're closing because the pastors are lazy. Because they say and they do not. They're not about doing. And so to cover themselves, they even go around every day. Oh, grace, 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 grace. No works, no work. Oh, if you're working, you're trying to work your way to heaven. Really? So if I'm trying to do the right thing, God's gonna send me to hell. You see, these people are crazy. Anyhow, Daniel chapter 12, verse 3. So you want to be able to flourish. One of the things you want to do, put yourself in an environment where people are trying to, as I say, kill it all day long. People are trying to make it in this life. People are trying to put in their labor. People are trying to study to show themselves approved, keeping the commandment, doing righteously, blessing, trying to do what they have to do. That's what you want to be. You want to be around because that is it's contagious. We're around people who are lazy. You know, as I say, I won't live in certain environment. There are too much lazy people. You want people like, you when I'm here sometime and I can hear. I can hear in the distance somebody cutting their lawn. It make you want to go cut your lawn too. When you see people putting in plants and, trying to take care of the house and it's labor. I have a neighbor close to me. My man been retired for years now. And I could, from now until fall, he's just going to be always out in the yard, cutting down trees, doing something with his yard, taking his tractor to get work done. And he bring his tractor back. He's over his yard doing something. And he's retired. He just keep going. And I'm like fascinated. But there's people who they want nice property, they want a nice home. But how are you gonna do it? How are you gonna get it? You're not gonna go work and pay somebody to do it, or you're gonna do it yourself. But it's not gonna happen by, miracle. But these people believe that's what church is about. Church, you have to do something. You have to work. Let me say it here. Let me say the abominable to the scribes and Pharisees. You have to do some work. You have to put in your sweat equity. This is it. You have to spend time on your knees. You have to spend time singing. You have to spend time studying. And when it comes on to health, you're going to put in your labor. There is no such thing, unless you have a lot of money, health without work. You will never be healthy if you're allergic to exercise equipment, to walking, bicycling. You'll never be healthy if you're allergic to taking supplements, herbs. You'll never be healthy if you can't sweat, so forth and so on. You have to put in your sweat equity. You cannot depend upon fast food. You have to cook food, make salads, juice, whatever. No, yeah, you can get the best juicer, but you still have to juice. You still have to clean the vegetables and wash them and put them in. You put in the hard labor to get your garden. Get your gut a garden, your brain a garden, make it a garden. Get your environment in your home a garden. You gotta put in labor. You gotta sweat. You gotta go out there, buy the food, work to make the money to buy the food. And you put it in. You pour that stuff in yourself. You put yourself in an environment that it might not be conducive. Listen, what I do here is difficult, but I do it for my own self and for those around me. I try to create an environment that is conducive to growth so that you can hear things like that because I cannot preach this in a church. A church would be, they'll go berserk. Somebody tell you that you have to work. This is abomination to them. This is how crazy these people are. Daniel 12 verse 3 says, and they that be wise, okay, you have to be wise and don't be foolish like these people, shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. And they that turn many to righteousness, that's right doing, as the stars forever and ever. I want you to do the right thing. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not going to be easy. Listen, it's difficult to discipline yourself. It's difficult to look away from all the crazy entertainment because that stuff is made to attract you. This self-discipline is not come a dime a dozen. It's difficult. But what do you tell me? It's difficult to eat proper. It's easier to eat fast food. Dip it in some deep fried vat of oil and give it to me. Sure, it's fast. That's what it is. Slow food, difficult. I'm not. What am I going to tell you? I'm going to tell you this is how it is. I'm not going to lie to you. It's difficult. But the results is what we're going after. And the results are not, there's no error in the results. And the results are loyal and the results are consistent. Now, your result might be different from my results. Because I look at it and I say, my results are not going to be as good as yours because my genetics, I don't believe, is as good as yours. But I have got better results from people who have better genetics than me because of what I'm practicing. So I believe in what I'm saying. And it can be empirically proven physically and with a blood test. Better results. But it comes through hard labor. You have to put in things that are purple, green, orange, all these different colors in your plate, in your cup, and drink it. What's okay? Whatever we don't do today, I'll do tomorrow. So notice in Daniel 12, verse 9, it says, he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried. So stop there. So we're not talking about hypotheticals, theological debate and discussion. You know, I don't preach, and it's if you listen to me, because it's intentional, I do not preach just theology. You notice I'm going to a text that normally people would preach about prophecy and stuff like that, but I just get in them practical. This is not hypothetical. This is literally true. This is literally practical. Many shall be purified. That doesn't, when you purify something, that means it's not spiritual purification only. We're talking about literal purification in the sense of when you clean up your diet, you clean up your entertainment, where you get rid of the junk off your screen, where you get rid of the junk that you listen to. That's purification. When you clean up your plate and you start eating good food and real food, you're purifying yourself. Remember, there's a brain, there's physical and spiritual connection. There's many people mad because they're mad chemically. So you handle that in your head. And just in case somebody thinking ahead of me. Listen, anyhow, when you're messed up chemically, you'll be messed up spiritually. When you're messed up health-wise, you're messed up spiritually. Your brain is just under depression all the time because you're constantly sick. See, there's physical anyhow. So many shall be made white and tried. This is a guarantee. Notice not, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand. But the wise shall understand. Now, what does a wise understand? Matthew chapter 6, verse 31. Matthew chapter 6, verse 31. It said, therefore, take no thought, saying, this is Christ here speaking, what shall we eat? What shall we drink? Wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth that you have need of all these things. So you have need of all these things. But notice he says here, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. So when you read this text can throw you off because this text is saying that what we need to do is just be spiritual. But not so, right? Not so. This text is all-inclusive. It's a three-dimensional text, so to speak. Notice it says, and all these things shall be added unto you. So he's saying, when you seek God's kingdom first, all these things shall be added unto you. When you seek God's righteousness first, all these things shall be added unto you. So somebody will say, okay, how am I going to get clothing and food and stuff like that if I seek God's first? Well, notice, the moment you read the Bible, what's the first thing God did to Adam? Put him to work. You don't have to worry about it. God says, listen, dress it and keep it. Then the moment Adam sinned, what is the first thing God said to Adam? You're going to sweat. So you don't have to worry about it. You're going to work and you're going to sweat. You're going to dress and keep everything. Everything your constant process is maintaining. When you keep the commandments of God, which is you're doing God's righteousness and you're seeking his kingdom. Well, obviously you read the 10 commandments. What does it say to you? Keep the Sabbath day. But in order for you to keep the Sabbath day, what you have to do? Work 6 days a week. So there you have it. So you don't have to worry. If you're follower of God's commandment and you're a righteous person, then there you go. When others don't have a work ethic, you have a 6 days a week work ethic. And if you end up like me, you go 7 days a week because you work on Saturday. For me, I'm talking about, and I work 6 days a week. I just keep going, and I don't do just theological or theoretical labor. I do physical labor. So, it is all there. Because remember, Christ for 3.5 years did labor in the sense of healing the sick, feeding the poor or the hungry, preaching the word, so forth. He did more healing than he did preaching. But for is beyond that, is for the first 30 years, when he can handle tools, at the point when he can handle tools to 30, he was a physical laborer. So, somebody say, what are you saying? Christ was a worker. He constantly worked. He worked so much, even in ministry, that his disciples were always concerned with his well-being. So when Christ says all these things shall, and this doesn't mean that if you see Christ's righteousness and stuff like that, that you're not at the top of the food chain. This puts you at the top of the food chain. So what he's doing to you is making you that you're not an amoral person. is making it that you understand that there is mental development, spiritual development, social development. There's things that you must do to flourish in this life. When you keep the commandments of God, it makes you that you're a friendlier person. It makes you that you're a more meditative person, a more observant person, that you observe life a little bit more keenly. It makes you see that there's more going on in life other than just work. Work now does not get eliminated. It makes you that the work doesn't get wasted. Why? Because when you follow the Lord and you start to avoid all stimulants, then you don't waste your work on righteous living. When you start follow the Lord and you say, listen, I'm gonna get a wife, I'm not gonna buy the horse, I'm not gonna take no drugs, no stimulants. I'm gonna be frugal with my money. I'm not gonna spend all my money on whatever. I'm gonna take care of my physical body because it's the most expensive organ, the most expensive thing that I have, which is my physical body. All these things, you're not going to put pork in your system. You're not going to put all these unclean meats. You're going to partake of good nutrients. When you do that, you put yourself in a flourishing situation. The righteousness bless your labor. I mean, don't make you waste your labor. When you start to exercise, do all that stuff, you just flourish because now life is more than just I have money in the bank. You see, when you go back to the dark ages, we go back to the Pharisees, and even look at the Jews today. They're all about money, but they live a very scary, miserable life. They constantly have people want to blow them up, shoot them, people hate them. They constantly talk about anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism. Why? Because the behavior they do always lead them to hate. You think about some of the, when I was younger, I would watch these documentaries and they always bring up people like the Rothschild and all these people. And they're just people that pour hate upon them because their focal point is to get rich at the destruction of their own credibility. But we as Christians, we're like, no, God's going to bless us and we can do more with less. Because what I've learned also is that if I buy the food and cook the food, and I buy finished products, I'm not going to make, I personally never try to make chips, potato chips or whatever chips for salsa, whatever that chip is. I start realizing when I make the food, it's cheaper because I'm buying the raw material to make it. And if I buy in bulk, whatever. So you see, you start doing life a certain way and it automatically end up making that you prosper more. So notice here is take therefore no thought for tomorrow, for the morrow. For the morrow will take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. In other words, when you start to take care of what is in front of you, you start to say, I need to do this today, that today, and take care of these things. What happened? It clear up stuff for tomorrow. Let's see if I can get to this last one here. Okay, look at my time. Notice here, Revelation chapter 8, verse 1 through 4 says, And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and a hole of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So as I was saying, your environment is very important for your success. This environment that is created where people are in, they will never flourish. This is why, as you know, the Jews never flourish in their time of their dark ages, and the kings, they never flourish under the Pharisees. The Catholic Church caused Western Europe to never flourish, even though they're constantly running out of money. If you look at the evangelical church and stuff like that, those people don't flourish, but yet they constantly talk about prosperity, gospel, and money. When you want to flourish, what you have to do is not be in an environment where it is not conducive for flourishing. This environment being described here, where it's a cage of every unclean and hateful bird, is not good for flourishing. You will be desolate. For all the nations have drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. So one of the things you have to do to flourish is get out of environments that is not going to make you flourish. Get out from people, go away from people that's not going to cause you to grow and to purify yourself and to live righteously. And encouraging that all you need to do is just do grace. It's madness. What you need to do is get some work done and do the right work. Bless people, be charitable, do like Christ, and you'll find that your life will flourish and you do better. We will continue with this thought tomorrow by God's grace, when we do current events. Until then, we will pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you, dear Lord, for your word and this day. I pray, dear Lord, that you may be with us, that we may walk humbly before thee and choose, dear Lord, things that will make us grow and flourish. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. Well, thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow when we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may walk with the King.